Hey, Vinyl Community, Jeff here again, and I'm going to jump on this thread. This thread I saw a little over a week ago and have been contemplating and trying to decide if I wanted to jump on board. And then I keep watching other people do it, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. This is for Andy over at Cloudy Metal Mogul. He did a tweak on a thread that I know I entered or replied to when it came out a couple years ago. And it's connecting 10 albums, with the last album connecting back to the first. And he tweaked it a little bit to make it the Metal Link Challenge. And he also approached it from a slightly different way of not repeating the types of links between the releases. And I thought, wow, that it made it a little more complicated. I mean, it'd be almost easy to say, hey, so-and-so played on this album, which was this guy who also played on this album. You could connect musicians like that, which is I think how my first one went. So I tried this and I decided to do this, spent a little time researching, doing some stuff, and I thought, I think I can do this. So I am coming up with 10 albums that link in different ways, and the last one circles back to the first one. So at first it was kind of like the other thread I mentioned, or contest, or whatever thread, really. You try to overthink it and you're like, you're not getting disqualified, so just jump in it and go for it. So we're going to start with Iron Maiden, Peace of Mind. Could have chose many different Iron Maiden albums. I chose this one because it's one of my favorites. As most all of us know, the Eddie character on here, most famously done by Derek Riggs. So he's the artist who has done most of the Eddies, in the early days at least, for that. Well, Derek Riggs also did the cover work for Impellitteri's Pedal to the Metal. One of the only Impellitteri albums with a totally different singer than ever. One off, kind of more of a 90s alternative vibe feel. But anyway, interesting album, great album. But Derek did the cover art for this also. Now, this album, the producer engineer of the album is a Mr. Greg Reely. Really? Yeah, Reely. Now, I don't have, this is the only one I've got on CD, but Greg Reely also is the producer of Animetal. Animetal also has Impellitteri on it, so it kind of makes sense they work together. This is Chris Impellitteri, Rudy Sarzo, Scott Travis, and Mike Viscera. Interesting thing, there's a band called Animetal overseas in Japan, and they do a lot of theme songs for games and animation type movies themes, and they do it in metal format. Well, this is the Animetal USA, where they do the same thing, but a lot of the games are in foreign languages, or they're not in, some of them are, some of them aren't. But anyway, one of them, which I'm not, Yuke Hayuma, is translated as Fast as a Shark. Fast as a Shark, for those of you in the know, is the opening track from Accept's Restless and Wild. Excellent album. I think one of the first albums by them that I received. Anyway, Fast as a Shark appears on here. This album was mixed by a Mr. Michael Wagener. Michael Wagener has done a lot of producing, mixing, engineering of a lot of different things, but he's done a lot of behind the scenes work. But he also has been known on occasion to get behind the mic for background vocals. He appeared on background vocals on the track. Those, he'd go in there and just jump in and do the big gang vocals on Raven's All for One album. Now, Raven's All for One album came out in the early 80s. It was copywritten by Neat Records, one of the labels back then that did a lot of material back then. So Neat Records is the owner, copyright of that. They also are the owner of Avenger's Bloodsport, another album from over there, owned by the same label at the time. Now, the singer for Avenger Bloodsports is, they have a main singer, but on 2 of the tracks on this album, they had a second singer by the name of Brian Ross. He also has some other pseudonyms he goes by. But Brian Ross appears on 2 of the tracks on this album. Brian Ross at the time, or around this time and continuing on, was the lead singer went on to be the lead singer for Blitzkrieg. They did an album in like 85, which I'm looking out for to try to get one day. And then they continued, I guess they reappeared years later and have continued to do quite a bit more material. I'm not sure if the lineup was the same. But I don't have any albums by Blitzkrieg, but a song by the name Blitzkrieg and by the band Blitzkrieg, or a song by that band Blitzkrieg, was covered by Metallica. The song called Blitzkrieg by the band Blitzkrieg, written by Brian Ross, was covered on the Metallica's cover album a couple years back. So they do a cover of the song written by Brian Ross. That, of course, we know that Metallica features guitar player Kirk Hammett, who did a solo album a year or two years ago, released on Record Store Day. Now, Kirk Hammett, of course, before joining with Metallica, is one of the founding members. Though he doesn't appear on this album, he is a founding member of Exodus. Now, interesting here, you have on the back, you've got all these flyers here. You've got Exodus and Metallica touring together, but you've also got Exodus and Blitzkrieg touring together. That was kind of neat. Anyway, so yeah. So, founding member originally of Exodus when the band formed. Of course, he did not appear on this first album because by this time he was in Metallica. But the connection is still there. And the first album by Exodus is Bonded by Blood. We're going to go off of the word blood for our 10th album, which is Blood Omen by the Raven Edge. And the Raven Edge, of course, is the band, if you know, that features George Harris as one of the founding members. George Harris, of course, is the son of Steve Harris, which circles us back to Iron Maiden, Steve Harris's band, to bring us back around full circle between father and son there. So there you go. 10 albums linked together, circling back to the last album. Fun stuff. It takes a little bit of work, but give it a shot. I'm sure you can do it. And I'll see you later. Rock on and rock hard.